We've got some of the people who've spoken earlier today. Jeramie, I mentioned. We've got Jonathan Simpson from the Essendon Football Club, Anthony Harrison from Cricket Victoria, Alana Fischer from the Football Federation of Australia, and Nick Marvin from the Perth Wildcats. And I suppose I'll just start out with the thought of digital media rights. That's something we really haven't had to consider for the past few years. You just basically sign a TV deal, a radio deal, and away we go. But now we're looking at digital media, we're looking at things online, what you're able to do with that sort of stuff, what you'd like to do. I spoke earlier about some of the stuff we wanted to do with the South Dragons but weren't able to do. Nick may be able to shed a little light on what Perth can do in that type of thing. We'll start just at this end, Nick, and in terms of any digital media rights, things that working with the NBL and maybe putting vision on your website or things like that. How's that stand at the moment?
The NBL's been quite embryonic in the last year since our crisis, so it's been very much an engagement in terms of rights. With Channel 10 and 1HD taking over the broadcast rights for the next 5 years, that does put some restrictions on us. But typically our radio broadcast rights are ours, and the rest really is owned by the league. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's. I think that's the kind of thing. There's been a lot of. Do you put your home games on the radio, for example? Do you do internet games when you're playing at home? Obviously, people think they're great to do when you're on the road, but what's your feeling with doing that at home games?
In the last year, we certainly broadcast all our games that went on Fox online, and we had a tremendous response for it, as well as on the radio, especially our away games. So that's been critical. The other thing for us too is the venue is only 4,500 seats small, so and our fan base being the only basketball team in the state, we have quite a lot of fans in remote communities as well as outside of the metro area. So we still get a lot of coverage on radio and online, even from our home games. So I didn't mention in my speech, but we'd gotten to a point where we've been putting up prices 35% a year. Just to reduce demand, so the broadcast has been a pretty important thing for us to reach out to fans that can't get to the games.
Alana, just moving to you quickly, I watched the Socceroos squad announcement. I believe it was on Fox Sports. Was that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How that came about? The idea we actually announced the squad and did it live on Fox Sports website, which I thought was really intriguing and interesting thing that you did.
Yeah, look, Fox do have the broadcast rights for the team for that particular moment. I think I'd probably rather speak about the future and what it means for any of the teams or the different sports. And broadcast rights at the moment, a lot of it's just been lumped in. Nobody's thought about 5 years ago or 7 years ago when the broadcast rights were signed with the various sports, they didn't think about the fact that maybe they want to put that video online. So I think it's a matter of putting a value on that, putting a price on it, and breaking it out of the actual broadcast and online rights that are out there at the moment.
How do you do that, do you think? Which is that? Obviously, that's probably the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I guess that's up to the different sports. Different sports have different followings, but I think from a commercial perspective, it can quite easily be worked out.
Yeah, well, certainly will be a major issue when we see the next AFL rights and NRL rights come around, that's for sure. Anthony, just thoughts from you in terms of, obviously it's probably not as big an issue, I would say, for someone like the Bushrangers or whatever, but in terms of whether it's streaming something or putting some video on your website, what sort of things are you trying to do?
I guess for us, and it comes similar to what Jeramie was talking about, is with our sort of content plan, we try to give our fans a bit of a unique perspective of the team rather than the game. We've got Fox Sports look after the game or the Big Bash in the 2020, and Cricket Australia did some live streaming of the Sheffield Shield final. But for us as Bushrangers, we're more the behind the scenes. So we had a great show that one of our players worked with called Beating Around the Bush with Bobby, and it was essentially one of our players just went out and interviewed all the other players, and that was tremendously successful from a content point of view. So that's sort of really the plan that we have. We do have a few restrictions though, especially our team's off to Champions League in South Africa in September. And India sort of own the TV rights to that, and we have some huge restrictions in the content that we can grab from that tournament. Like the restriction is anything that we can film outside the matches, but we're not allowed to put any of that on our website until we get home. So it's, for us that's huge. As we start thinking, well, what's really the point? Because as we all know, with social media and digital, everyone wants everything yesterday. So there's no point giving it to them a month later.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't fit with that real-time thing that Nick was talking about in his presentation. Jonathan, we were speaking earlier, and when Jeramie was speaking about some of the things his guys were doing, Jared Dudley doing his behind-the-scenes JMZ stuff, and guys are posting interviews and videos from the locker room and stuff like that. It's always struck me that the American athletes are much more attuned to that, much more willing to talk about, probably much more egotistical and willing to put themselves forward. With Australian players, it doesn't seem like they're as willing, Harry O'Brien being the huge exception, to put themselves out like that. Is that something you can work with? Are you finding that? Am I wrong?
No doubt. We have enough trouble getting players to tweet, let alone take photos and make little videos. But it's certainly an area that there's probably the most interest in from the fans. So what we're trying to do is, if the players don't feel comfortable with it and the coaches definitely probably don't feel comfortable with it, then we have to build the relationship so that the club can at least do it. So we've got a lot of behind-the-scenes video on our website. It's actually we're slightly different in the AFL network, where we sit independently of all the other clubs in the AFL network. So we have a subscription model, so people have to pay to access online vision. And most of that is behind-the-scenes footage. It's also press conferences. We can't show any matchday images and matchday vision at all unless it's broadcast as news, so it's a 2-minute news package. So we're really driven towards providing that unique content, whether it's from a player or not. We're more around the content itself, whether it comes from the club or a player. But I think the online rights are probably the biggest issue in the AFL in the next couple of years, no doubt. And the interesting, I'm probably not the most qualified person in this room, there's plenty of people here from the AFL, but for what it's worth, my point of view is that it'd be really interesting to see what happens with broadcast and match vision versus the internet rights, and are they going to blend? What's going to happen in that space? Will Channel 7 or any of the broadcasters say, well, we want to have live streaming on our website, and will they want to package that up with the online rights? Will Telstra say, no, we want to keep everything? Will people aggregate it so it's a news service plus there's a vision service separately? It'd be interesting to see what the NBA do, or what they're doing at the moment, because that's a massive issue for the AFL. And I think from our perspective, we would love to be able to show live matches on our website, but we can't.
Yeah, and I think someone mentioned it earlier, the fact that we've still got delayed Football Friday and Sunday is definitely a huge issue when it comes to working out digital media and things like that. Jeramie, can you pick up on that a little bit and talk about maybe what the NBA and what you guys can and can't do and those types of things? Streaming video, stuff like that?
You bet. In terms of radio, the NBA owns the radio broadcast rights for online, but fans can register on NBA.com and get their local radio broadcast, so they can actually hear the Suns broadcasters do the game, and it's free. They just have to sign up. It's basically a data collection opportunity for the NBA. In terms of TV, just about a year ago, the NBA did give teams the opportunity or the ability to stream their live games in their market. So we could stream live Phoenix Suns games in the Phoenix metro area, but we've already given those rights to our broadcast partner, Fox Sports Arizona. So it would have to be an agreement between the broadcast partner and the team whether or not to do it. We're not doing that currently. Our broadcast partner obviously wants to keep fans watching their channel rather than possibly losing some viewers to online. But the Portland Trail Blazers have tried it, and they did, I think, 6 to 8 games this past season just on their website.
I think I watched a couple of those, and the result was not good, I'm afraid.